Hello again. So, this next little topic then is the second part of ecology. Now, in this section, we're going to be looking at several different areas: decomposers, carbon cycle and global warming, and then nitrogen cycle and eutrophication. So, what we'll probably do is group these together and these together. So, let's get started. Now, in the previous topic, we were talking about energy flow, which was basically how energy flows through a food chain and food web as part of the feeding process. We always said that every food chain starts with sunlight. The plants take in the sunlight and use it during photosynthesis and produce food for the consumers. But we also said that energy was lost at each trophic level through the process of respiration, and we use the term energy flow. The fact that we use the word flow indicates that it starts in one place and flows to somewhere else. But as we know, along the way, energy got lost at each trophic level. It's not like nutrient cycles here, where the nutrients are actually recycled around. The energy very definitely flowed in one direction and was lost at different stages. Once the energy had been lost, it couldn't be replaced again. If we look at the flow of nutrients though, we see that it differs from the flow of energy in lots of important ways. In a stable ecosystem, the overall gain or loss of nutrients from a system will be small, and unlike energy, nutrients can be recycled as part of a nutrient cycle. Now let me show you what I mean. So here we've got a field of grass with sheep in it. So the sun shines down on the grass and the sheep eat the grass. Now in terms of energy flow, the energy flows that way. But at each stage, energy gets lost. So the grass can't absorb all of the sunlight. Some of it misses the chloroplast, some of it's reflected. Some energy is lost here because the sheep can't eat all the grass, and then the sheep wastes some of the energy here in its feces because it can't digest it all. And that was energy flow. So in that case, energy gets lost at every step along the way. But if we look at it in terms of nutrients, here's what happens. So the sun shines down on the grass. The grass produces carbohydrates and the sheep eats them. Now, in terms of nutrients, what happens is the sheep eat the grass. So the nutrients that were in the grass get transferred to the sheep. The sheep eats them, digests it, and uses the nutrients that were in the grass to make its own materials. So for example, it takes any proteins that were in the grass, digests them into amino acids, and builds them up into its own proteins for things like muscle and fur. But what also happens is, along the way, the sheep does its little poops. Now, do its poops stay there forever? No, they don't. What happens is the nutrients that were in the poops get decomposed and they break up into smaller pieces, and then they get recycled back into the grass. So the point I'm trying to make here is that energy flow was in one direction, from the sun through the producer through the consumers, and it was lost along the way. Whereas in terms of nutrients, they are constantly recycled in the ecosystem. So that's the difference in what we're about to look at here. Now the first area to start off here in nutrient cycling is to look at decomposers. So decomposers are organisms which break up dead material and waste or feces and recycle the nutrients. And there's three main types: bacteria, insects, and fungi. So if we look at this little food chain, we've got the grass. The grass gets eaten by the grasshoppers, which get eaten by the mice. Mice get eaten by the snakes, and the snakes get eaten by the eagles. Now, all along the way there, energy and nutrients have been transferred. But what we're saying here is that at each stage, each organism produces some waste, and this waste goes to the decomposers, which in this case are fungi, and recycle the nutrients back to the grass, which allows the grass to grow again, and the food cycle, or the cycle of nutrients, continues. Now, there's lots of different types of decomposers. As I said, they can be split up into three main groups: bacteria, fungi, and insects. So this picture just shows a few of them. So here we've got little insects which can crawl through the dirt and break it up. We've got wood lice, we've got worms, we've got dung beetles, we've got different types of fungi and mushrooms. So this part just shows our little decomposers and how they actually work. So this here is a little fungi, and what it does is it releases digestive enzymes onto the food. The enzymes break down the substrate, which in this case is the food, so most likely the dead material. So it could be leaves, it could be feces, and then the fungi absorb the products of digestion, and they use those products to grow. And that is how decomposers work. So the three steps are: they release the enzymes break down the food, and the fungi absorb the products. And that is known as saprophytic digestion. Now, sometimes as decomposition takes place, the rotting material may get warm and release an unpleasant smell. So why is that? Well, firstly, the heat is produced by the bacteria during respiration. So remember, we said all living things have to respire, and respiration is an exothermic process, so it releases heat. So because you're basically providing all this food for bacteria, loads of bacteria reproduce, they grow, and because you've got more bacteria than normal, they will respire and produce the heat. And they release smelly gases as they do. So that's usually why things smell. Things usually smell bad because of the bacteria involved. Like if you think of a stinky armpit, basically somebody gets a smelly armpit because bacteria grow in their armpit. And that's why it smells. Decomposition takes place more quickly when conditions are optimum. What conditions would this be? So the main things that bacteria and fungi are going to need is moisture, oxygen, and a suitable temperature to multiply and bring about decomposition. So they basically need water, oxygen, and a suitable temperature, which you might think straight away might be 37 degrees because that's our body temperature, but actually it's going to be about 20 to 25 degrees C, because the bacteria we're talking about here live outside the human body, so they work better at lower temperatures than human body temperature. Now, in a terrestrial ecosystem, so a land ecosystem, where will the majority of decomposers be found, and why are they so important? They'll mostly be found in the soil, and they're vital because they remove the dead remains and waste so they do not accumulate. And this is the most important reason. They recycle the vital nutrients such as carbon and nitrogen. And that is what our next two little sections are going to be all about. Recycling carbon in the carbon cycle and recycling nitrogen in the nitrogen cycle. See you then.